So, sensation and perception relates to how we gather information from the world around us. These last three concepts relate to the way we use that information, what we do with it, and how we convey it to others. So, one concept is memory, which our book defines as the persistence of learning over time through the storage and retrieval of information. So, that definition really highlights the fact that we're talking about something that is over time. In other words, it's not just immediate here and now. Storage and retrieval highlights this idea of process, and information highlights the content, that information we're getting from our senses. So memory in particular is highlighted in the prize winner for Defiance, Ohio. In prize winner, can think about what all the pieces are that mom needs to, the mother character as they call her, needs to remember. In Music Within, we can think about memory in terms of some of the speeches that the main character gives. And in Outsourced, they portray a number of call center representatives. And we can think about, wow, what all information would they need to remember to be able to do that job? And so, as we think about that, we can think about it in terms of encoding, storage, and retrieval, or the information processing model. So, encoding is the processes that we use to get it into our memory. And so, you can think about given the different characters, what might they have to do in order to have that in their memory. Storage helps us think about the duration and the form of our biological systems and their capacity for memory. And retrieval says, how do we get it back out of storage? And we can think about what the different characters are doing to get the information out. One implication of this process that we encode, we store, we retrieve is that we are constantly and consistently reconstructing our memories. Our memories are a constructed event. And so we can look at Rear Window and say, do we have some examples of the memory construction phenomenon that we read about? How is this process of constructing our memories influencing Jeff's behavior? At the same time, many of our characters are going to be seen solving problems, especially Mother and Prize Winner, Jeff, well, actually Jeff, there's another character, but Jeff as well in Rear Window, and number of the characters in Outsourced. So we can think about what the different approaches are to solving problems. Our book talks not just about trial and error, but algorithms and heuristics, as well as insight. Each of those has got its pros and its cons, though, and you can think about how do we see that translated in these characters' behavior. At the same time, sometimes there are obstacles to problem solving. And so if you look at Rear Window, you can think about what obstacles might have been present. And on the flip side, in Outsourced, what obstacles did they avoid here? One reason, among others, that solving problems in this process, thinking about the process is important, is because it influences decisions and judgments. Heuristics, the representativeness heuristic and the availability heuristic can affect the way we process information, going back to the sensory or sensation and perception information. And you might relate that to the character's behavior in Rear Window. Similarly, you might see overconfidence translated in a number of the characters' behaviors across the movie. Belief perseverance, we might see that in Rear Window, among others. And then, as you think about the role of intuition and framing, again, going back to many cases back to Rear Window. So you can think about how were the characters' behaviors influenced because of the initial process that they used or the approach that they used to solve a problem because of the way they used the information. The last big concept here then is language, which is again highlighted and Outsourced. As you might imagine, it's set in a different culture geographically, but also in Prize Winner. So language are our spoken, written, signed words, ways we combine them to communicate meaning. And so your book talks about the different structure of language, and both Outsourced and Prize Winner highlight structure and its influence on our understanding of the world and the way we relate to the world. So in other words, in many ways they highlight the relationship between language and thinking. And you might think, especially with Outsourced, given some of the names that are used for things, how does that relate with the theory or the ideas of linguistic determinism? Both movies, both Prize Winner and Outsourced, also help us think a lot about the structure of language and the different ways we work with words within those structures. So it all comes together within an interesting picture, as I said, of the culture in which these movies are set and the different commonalities of behavior as they take in information about the world and deal with it. Hope you enjoy.